Okay, we're just about ready to begin. So let me welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. Is everyone very excited for this program? Don't answer because you know you're muted. Okay, we have another one coming in. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ann Price. I'm a volunteer for Angie. I'm a member with Angie. I'm the New Jersey Audubon Community Engagement Coordinator. Yeah, I teach about nature. Yeah. Also with me from Angie today is Laura McCluskey. She's the Angie Programs Chair. We're excited that you're with us for today's workshop, Outdoor EE for the Special Needs Community, as part of Angie's 37th Annual Winter Conference. As a special thank you to our conference, sponsors, PSE&G, New Jersey Natural Gas, and our anonymous donor who's a friend of science and environmental education in New Jersey, and to BASF and Grounds for Sculpture for supporting our field experiences. The online auction's been extended until Sunday at 11:59 p.m., so get your bids in for some really cool stuff. There's also a link to all of our YouTube channel in the chat room. You can see all of our recorded content from past conferences, forums, and other sponsored events. We hope you subscribe to Angie's YouTube channel. Just a few reminders for this session. We ask that everyone keep yourself on mute throughout the presentation. If you do have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat room. There will be time for live questions toward the end of the presentation. You can either raise your hand or use the hand raising icon, and we'll let you ask your questions. Our presenters for this program are Ann Moore-Siebecker, Lorna Townsend, Kathleen Mendes, Matt Kaiser, and Bill O'Brien. This presentation and panel discussion will focus on providing opportunities for outdoor nature-based field trips and programs for the special needs community. We'll discuss how to plan a successful program, pre-program communication, and educator training. We'll address questions and concerns that educators and administrators may have and discuss the logistics and benefits of becoming a host site for transition or structured learning experience programs for older students. Let's have our presenters please introduce yourself and let's get started.
Terrific. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, hi everybody. Did I get it right? Is it up there now? My name is Ann Siebecker, and I'm the director and a trustee at the New Weiss Center for Education, Arts, and Recreation in Ringwood, New Jersey. And I've invited to join today several panelists, and we even have some additional panelists. So you're getting a full range. I have Lorna Townsend, and she will be helping me to present from the side of the program or school perspective, and Kathleen Mendes, who's a transition teacher for West Milford High School, and she will also be sharing her thoughts and perspective from the school's point of view. I will be representing the other end, a host site that would be hosting field trips, hosting transition teams. So hopefully we'll cover both bases, and looking forward to sharing what I've learned during my journey, and I hope that everybody finds it helpful. Okay. So for those of you that may not be familiar, some of you may be, but the New Weiss Center is an environmental education center with a long and exciting, interesting, storied history. Some of you may know it as the Weiss Ecology Center. Depending how old you are, you may remember it as Camp Midvale. So it's been about 100 years that our site has had been devoted to connecting with nature, enjoying the outdoors, conservation, and we're happy to be continuing that legacy. The little bit of more recent history is that the center was closed by the previous owners in the long chain that has owned our wonderful site. It was closed in 2012, and some people eventually formed a nonprofit to take over the ownership and reopen the center. I joined during that transition period when we were still working to take over, and I'm a board member. And we formed the nonprofit Highlands Nature Friends. We reopened, and it's been just excitement and a little bit of terror ever since. So if you're not familiar with our site, I hope that you'll get up there someday. We do have 152 acres. It's a beautiful site in the Highlands region of northern New Jersey. We have a lot of facilities, and particularly, as it relates to our topic today, a lot of outdoor facilities that lend themselves to outdoor classrooms. A little bit about me. I did not spend my career, like many of my esteemed colleagues on this call, in environmental education, in outdoors. I, in fact, worked for many, many years in corporate America in marketing, communications, project management. But my interest and my heart was always with nature and the outdoors. And I took advantage of a job transition, and that would be a layoff, to change my career and go towards the passion that was within me. And so you're never too late to make that big change. Once I decided to go that direction, I threw myself into it. And so some of the volunteer activities that I'm involved in that you see there. I have my contact at the bottom in case anybody wants to reach out to me, and it will also be on the last slide. So. Okay. Give me just one second here. There we go. So just a little bit about what the New Weiss Center does. We primarily focus on environmental education, utilizing our beautiful space, but we also do arts and recreation programs. And there's an example of, just some of the many things that we do currently, and we're always evolving and changing. So I probably need to update this, 5 times a year, but that's some of the things that we do on there. And I just had to give a shout out, since this is an Angie conference, that we were proud and thrilled to be chosen as the 2019 Angie recipient of the Pat Skelly Community Excellence Environmental Education Award. It was really quite an honor because we've only, as you saw, been reopened. At that time, it was about 4 years or 3.5 years. So it was really quite an honor, and we are so proud of it. So our center, it's small. We are growing, but our staff remains very small, very tight, very cohesive. And I feel like we get a lot done with a small amount of people. And that's probably something a lot of people at nonprofits say. And I think in many jobs, especially nowadays, say the same thing, that they're making do with less people, but still producing lots of impact. And that's how we feel too. So we just have 2 full-time staff, myself and Sarah Crosby, who is our senior educator. And beyond that, we use part-time staff. We've just welcomed a new year-round part-time staff who is actually on the call today. Hello, Eric. And then we use a lot of as-needed staff, and then lots of interns. We have paid interns, and we really do our best to put out a tremendous output, connect with the community with not a lot of people. So I'm going to introduce Lorna Townsend and her associate William. Lorna, if you could introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about you, your background, beyond what they can read there, and about your feelings about nature and environment for the special needs community.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Angie, for having us here. I have been in the transition field for about 7 to 10 years now. The transition field is bridging that gap for 18 to 21-year-olds to prepare them for adulthood and having a fulfilling life. Prior to that, I worked in a school system, and I was a program coordinator, and that is how I reached out to Anne. I've always had a huge place in my heart for Weiss, My children went to camp there years ago when it was Weiss Ecological Center. And it's just a beautiful facility. What they offer is amazing. Their staff is amazing. And so I made a phone call one day and asked if they were doing field trips. And it turned out that we were going to be their first field trip after reopening. And it was just a wonderful experience. Presently, I work for Avid Community Services. We have 17 group homes as well as our ACTS program, which is what we do is we help schools with their transition programs. We offer workshops, career advancement, SLE, and things like that, which we're going to touch on a little bit. But that's a little bit about myself. And again, I thank you, Anne, for bringing us to this place. This is very exciting, and congratulations on your award. Well deserved. And now at this time, I'd like to introduce William. He and I are co-workers. We just started working together this past September. So I'm going to let Bill tell you a little bit about himself.
Okay, well, hopefully it doesn't kick me off because I've had a couple issues with my computer right now, unfortunately. But my name is William O'Brien. I'm the transition coordinator for Avid Community Services. I've been in the field for about 6 years. I really enjoy working in the community with the students with special needs. And I think that the biggest component is getting them as much experience in the field and in their communities as possible so they can be, full functioning adults. I'm really passionate about what I do, and I really am thankful for Anne and Lorna for letting me be part of this amazing presentation.
Thanks, Bill. Next, I'm having a little trouble making my slides. I do apologize. They're just not responding quickly. Next, I'd like to introduce Kathy Mendez. Kathy, I'll get your slide up, but why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself too.
Sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Angie. Thank you, Anne, for allowing us to be a part of this amazing presentation conference. I'm Kathleen Mendez. I'm the transition teacher at the West Milford High School. I have been in the district for 22 years, and William was one of my students a few years ago at the high school, and I'm very proud of him. I have been teaching special ed in the district for about 15 years. Prior to that, the general ed population. I was given this opportunity 6 years ago to jump into this position as a recommendation from my director, because I did own a business, a bagel shop, and I had that business background and the special education training, OSHA training and so forth. And I absolutely love it. I had the opportunity to reach out to Anne about having some students work as structured learning experiences, work-based learning, as it's called now, in nature, outdoors, because we typically have the students placed in retail jobs, shops, grocery stores. So this is a great opportunity for our students to connect with the community, to connect with the outdoors, and get physically fit, connect with nature, and think about jobs in the career cluster of agriculture and nature, rather than just being indoors and performing jobs in that realm. I'm happy to introduce my job coach, Matthew Kaiser, who's very familiar with the New Weiss Center because he's had experience in another district. And Mr. Kaiser.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here and just give a little insight on the job I do as the job coach for the students here. I would say that's the best thing about being able to go to the New Weiss Center is just being outside in the community. It is the town over from us. We're in West Milford. It is in Ringwood, New Jersey. But just being able to have the learning experience outdoors for the students is very crucial for just one, the well-being of the student, not having to be inside, all the time, and just becoming one and being with nature and just learning jobs and life skills, I think is crucial for the development of the students as they continue to progress and go through the programs. We do a great job, like Ms. Mendes had mentioned. I came from the Lakeland High School school district prior to West Milford, and I was fortunate enough to be in the core program over there, which is students ages 14 to 18 before the transition program. And our teacher over there, Miss Jamie Halftek Shropshire, was probably one. She loved the New Weiss Center, and then we would always go there, whether it was for just the learning experiences. They have all the different programs over there, and now I got to see it on the aspect of the job they present to programs and the students, and we had a great job. Loved it. I know our students loved it, and definitely very beneficial, like I said, to the learning experience, not just like in the classroom, and being able to be outside in the community and nature, and bettering the world, I guess.
And honing in on those skills.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So, I wanted to sort of set the stage. We're going to talk about both field trips and we're going to talk about the transition programs. But I wanted to set the stage with the little anecdote Lorna shared about how we got involved in it, because it ties into really my purpose when I thought about sharing this presentation today, was that we had quite a journey at the Weiss Center. We went from not being open to trying to get open, to saying, let's have field trips, to having our very first field trip be the whole school of a special needs community with somebody who believed passionately in it, Lorna, but they also had never done an outdoor field trip program before. So it was kind of like everything at once, and yet it all went well. And as we've worked more and more with that community, I really have come to feel strongly about it, and to realize that the things that held, maybe perhaps gave me pause, gave us hesitation in the beginning, we thought, we're not worthy. Are we prepared? We don't have somebody on staff with a background in special needs. How could we do this? How could we handle it? Oh my gosh, we don't know what we're doing. How will we serve this community well? And what I came to realize throughout this journey over these years, working with the wonderful people like my panelists today, several other teachers, administrators at the schools, is that all those perceptions that I had, not coming from the special needs background, they all didn't matter. And it really was all about communication and preparation, but that any hesitation, any fears I might have had were needless. And so my hope was, if there's people out there that are teachers and aren't currently planning outdoor field trips for their students, maybe they think it's too risky, or if you are, an education center or another nature and environmental center, and maybe you don't focus on the special needs community because maybe you don't think, wow, we don't really have the background, we're not prepared to handle that, or our site isn't suited for that. I think those all are roadblocks I perceived that don't exist. And it's really just been a delightful journey, and we've learned a lot along the way. And so that's why we wanted to share this with you today. So what the New Weiss Center offers is we do a lot of school field trips, and including extended school year. And that is for the special needs students all the way from, we've done elementary all the way up to the teenage years. We do seasonal programs. They will sometimes not have a formal field trip, but just want a guided nature hike or team building exercises. We have a special needs program that's may come for maple sugaring. And then we are also, as my colleagues were just mentioning, a job site host for those transition teams. We serve the students who are following an IEP, an individual education plan. And I've listed some of the types of students, some of the types of special considerations they might have. But I think what has been very important is I have a tendency, we all do at the Weiss Center. We're just so thrilled to be doing what we're doing that we have a tendency to just say yes to everything. And it's been very important to be realistic about what we can and can't do. So although I would love to accommodate and have had inquiries from schools that are hearing impaired or vision impaired, our property in particular, in addition to maybe our staff would need additional training that we do not yet have, and our property is not really set up for that. So, you know, another example is medically fragile individuals. If they are in wheelchairs, we don't have any paved pathways. We don't even really have them with pavers. It's rough roots and stones. And so it really logistically is just not set up ideally to host that. So I think that is something that I learned. Lorna told the story about how she reached out to me, and what she left out is one of the main things we learned was the importance of this communication. And in our early communications, Lorna said, now you do have bathrooms, right? And this was when we were just trying to get reopened and renovate. And we said, well, we will by the time you come. So, you know, being open about what you have, what you don't have, what your accommodations, what your site looks like, and all those logistics is very important. What you can offer and what you can't offer. And I always hate to turn anybody down, but I think that's been very important. Okay, so this, I wanted to talk just a little bit about from the school's perspective. And when we go through both field trips and the transition programs, we're going to first look at it from the school's perspective, and then we're going to look at it from the host site, like the New Weiss Center or other ecological centers. So from the school's perspective, we listed a few benefits that we see, and there's many. And I think you'll find as we continue to talk, a lot of the things that we're talking about, they would apply to any student, which is in fact part of my point, is that it's not, you don't need to be hesitant that there's a lot of accommodations, a lot of changes, a lot of adjustments you'll need to make, because it's really not much different than what you would do to prepare for, you know, a kindergarten class at the public school. And in fact, I have found that sometimes what is involved with adapting your program for kindergarten and then adapting it for 8th grade might be more of a stretch. So you'll notice the things that I say in here, they apply to maybe every student. So I think that Lorna, do you or Kathy, do you want to just address a little bit some points in there about how when they're out in the outdoors, that they don't have a stigma, and that it provides an opportunity for them that would be different than the opportunity they get in the classroom. Do either of you want to kind of say a word to that? I know you feel strongly about that, and that's why you were drawn to try to set up these outdoor programs.
Sure. Do you want to go first, Kathy?
No, go ahead, Lorna. I'll just piggyback off of what you say.
Yeah, I think, you know, coming to Weiss and my one was that I can mindset. You know, a lot of times students come from regional areas, so they don't necessarily get an opportunity to enjoy the great outdoors. You know, we live in Northern Jersey and you know, we get to see this, but a lot of people don't get to experience that. And students may be a little hesitant at first, you know, they're not used to seeing wild animals and trees and everything that comes with nature. And in my experience, those students who were so hesitant to go were the ones who kept saying, I want to go back. I want to go back for more and more. They love the hikes. They loved collecting insects and examining them under microscopes and, just building shelters. And it just was amazing to see someone who was like, nope, I can't do that. I'm going to ruin my good sneakers. And all of a sudden they're like, this is the best thing that has ever happened. So it really is such an amazing opportunity for everyone, gen ed, special needs. But I think special needs programs tend to shy away from it, like Anne said, out of very fear-based, what are we going to expect? There's a lot of sensory issues with special needs children, and, they're afraid. And it really turns out that it opens up a whole new world for them. It really does. And I'm not going to talk too more about it because I know, Kathy, you want to say a few things too. But I really encourage everyone to give this an opportunity for their students.
Yes, I agree. To piggyback off of what Lorna just spoke about, we brought our extended school year ESY group for a community-based instructional learning experience over the summer. And we had a group that were the group was very hesitant, about 4 or 5 of the students. And once they were able to see how easy it was to navigate around the trails, especially with Sarah, who was very knowledgeable, and made them feel very comfortable, they just absolutely loved the whole experience and were asking if they can come back again. And the employees, like Sarah, for instance, makes it so comfortable and eases them into the situation so that they build the confidence that they need to explore nature and to enjoy and learn at the same time.
I just noticed in the chat room, there's a couple of questions. Anne, did you want me to just read this? Because I know you can't see it while you're presenting.
I think we're going to do questions at the end, Q&A.
Okay.
So
okay.
we'll get to all those questions at the end. So keep
Perfect.
putting your questions in the chat room. We will work to address them. But thank you, Lorna. Okay, so next, having this trouble again. There we go. So again, we're going to continue focusing on field trips and outdoor programs from the school's perspective. And I talked with not only Lorna and Kathy, but several of my other colleagues. Somebody mentioned Jamie Halftag. We currently work with about 6 or 7 different schools that come for field trips or have come. And then we work with 5 schools right now for transition teams, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, and as I said, this is sort of a kind of a niche that came to us, and we learned as we grew. And the more we learned, the better we got at doing it, and the more that people appreciated that and came to us again and again. I also think there's a wonderful connection. They might come to you for a field trip, and then you learn and you talk to them and you find out that they also have transition teams, and then maybe they come for that. So it can be one leading to the other. And often when we work with a school, we wind up working with them on multiple projects, all designed to get the kids outside in nature, learning, enjoying, connecting. So when we were talking, Kathy and Lauren and I, when we were talking about what makes a successful field trip from the school's perspective, and Kathy and Lorna chime in if you'd like, but we talked about really the importance of communication, questions, logistics, working that all out ahead of time, planning. And we all felt that the pre-site visit is key. And this is something that is perhaps different from a public school, for example, or even a private school, is that the transition team members will come out to the site and do a pre-site visit to to, check it out. That they definitely do that with the transition team, but very often we've had the schools do it for the field trips as well. So the more you can communicate, the more you can prep so that everybody knows what the layout is, what the logistics are, the better. Also for the field trips, making sure that all your chaperones are prepared. And it's wonderful that the chaperones that come for the field trips are actually the aides, the paraprofessionals. They really know all the students and they work with them. So, and I often love chatting with the chaperones, picking their brains. We've picked up some good tips from them. And then preparing the students for the field trip. Send them the lesson plan ahead of time so that they can, the teachers can talk to the students about what they're going to be seeing. Kathy said she shows her students the website so they look over it, or maybe that was Jamie that said that, but one of my colleagues mentioned that, and I thought, what a great idea. And it gets the students excited, and it also helps them to not be confronted with something new that they might have a hesitation or apprehension about. You're not springing something on them. They have time to prepare and get ready for it and understand what that's going to entail. Also talking about appropriate attire, especially students that don't come from an area, maybe it's more urban setting, but they don't come from an area where they have the bountiful connection with nature that I know I'm fortunate to have living in Ringwood. They may not have that. So you may have to give them some special instructions about what to wear. Don't show up in flip-flops, So the planning and the communication with the field trip is very important. And particularly, giving them that heads up, going over the lesson plan, and then sharing it with the chaperones and the students so everybody knows what to expect. Another aspect that the schools would be concerned with and put their attention to is how do we manage this risk, whether it's real risk or perceived risk. But that could be something that would be on their minds and maybe be a hesitation to planning an outdoor field trip. Is that, oh my gosh, this is risky. How am I going to supervise them if they're not within the the structure of a classroom? They come with wonderful aides and paras. They have close supervision. They look out for things like individuals that may have some balance or coordination problems, especially if you're on a site like Weiss with a lot of uneven ground, rocky trails, etc. And then they are always ready to de-escalate anything that they might see bubbling up. Another great suggestion I had down at the bottom is, if assuming you have the photo releases, take pictures, send them to the parents. Then the parents might love to see what their kids are doing, and it might give them ideas about what they too can do, the parents or guardians. So, before I finish out on the school perspective of field trips, Lorna or Kathy, anything else you want to add to that?
I just feel, Anne, that you covered every, but more importantly is just exchanging some cell phone numbers. I mean, this
good point.
Cell service, just in case there's an emergency or there's an issue. That communication piece is very important.
Exactly. That's a good point. Yes. Having that communication, even the texting where, we're running late and etc. Or yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We and Weiss is huge in comparison to most field trips. So we use walkie-talkies when we go on our field trip. So that's something that the school can bring with them, are the walkie-talkies, because there's usually different stations and students are doing different things. They may be doing team building in one station, and then they're doing shelter building in another, and maybe somebody's going on a hike. So it's nice to have the walkie-talkies. Also, because of the area, you don't get a lot of good cell service. You can send text messages, but if you had to call someone, but I found that Weiss is really great about, when you go there ahead of time, and we brought almost 100 students up there, I think, the first trip. So we broke them down in teams and groups, and it was a lot of communication, a lot of work, but I just found that Weiss was so open to, you know, accommodating everybody and every situation. I even, before we planned our first field trip, I actually took the hike myself, you know, and we kind of cleared off some of the path and just made it so that, you know, again, we took out that risk that someone would fall. And we even have a nurse's station set up so we can have water there. And, you know, it's just could be a rest place if there's a student who maybe gets a little overstimulated with everything that's going on. There's a place they can go where they can just kind of calm down, relax. It's just a wonderful experience, but planning is definitely key. And Weiss does an amazing job about communicating and planning on what they're going to do.
Yeah, and Lorna, that's a really good point about the walkie-talkies. We use walkie-talkies too. Now, depending on, you know, what kind of a site you have, maybe that's not important, but, you know, we have 152 acres. So every team that is with a group, and we usually break larger groups down. We always break larger groups down. We have walkie-talkies so we can communicate among our staff. And then we always have somebody stationed in our main building because we don't have much, if any, cell phone reception. So we always have somebody in the main building with a landline so that even if they're out in the woods, we can communicate amongst our staff. And then, as Lorna mentioned, her staff can communicate too. So communication before, during, and after is key. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit, still talking about field trips, but I'm going to talk a little bit about from the host site perspective. So from the perspective of Weiss or another center that is welcoming the students for the field trip. There's a few benefits that I was thinking back on. What is different? I talked about a lot of similarities with any other field trip but there's several benefits and unique opportunities that I think go with working with the special needs community, and I just wanted to touch on them. As Lorna mentioned, the students may come from outside of their district. So you might reach a wider geographic area. We have field trips come from a lot of different places, but often the students are coming from towns that those towns' public systems may not be coming to us for field trips, but the students that live in that town come because they're going to a special needs school that is not in their district. So we've had interactions with a much wider range geographically and demographics than we might have otherwise, and I love that. Another thing that I think is a benefit is we find that field trips tend to be clustered. You know, the spring, it's like back to back to back field trips, especially towards the end of the school year. But the special needs community has the extended school year, and we host a number of field trip programs, large and small, with those students. And it's nice. It's nice to spread it out. They get to see nature in a different season. And it gives our summer staff, our summer interns a chance so that it's not just, oh, well, you weren't with us in the spring. You don't get to work with them and learn from them. So I think that's a benefit. And also, as I mentioned, that the students for both field trips and then, of course, the transition teams, they come with trained chaperones. So any fears that I might have had, like, oh my gosh, I won't know what to do with, a student that has a particular sensory issue and how they react to that. What would I do if that happens? You don't have to worry about that. Our educators just get to be educators, and the trained chaperones handle all that. So another thing that I thought, oh, we're not ready to handle that we don't need to handle. So those are just a few of things that I thought were kind of unique with hosting field trips for special needs. Again, from my side, I'm going to echo the same thing that we talked about from the school side. Communication. Ask questions. Don't be hesitant. Don't feel like, oh my God, maybe this is sensitive and I shouldn't ask about mobility, or I shouldn't ask about things. Ask questions. And, that communication, that back and forth also helps the school know things that they need to be considering. So planning, we talked about before. Send your teacher the lesson plan, go over the activities, tour the site with them if they can, help them prep the students, help them be prepared. During the field trip itself, you know, a backup. You might have to adjust, you might have to adapt. An activity you thought was going to be amazing, maybe it's just not going over. And, you know, on conversely, I remember a field trip, one of our early ones, where we had one game that involved students being blindfolded. I think it was for team building or something. And we were all worried about that and said, oh, they're not going to maybe want to do that from a sensory point of view. They might not want to feel that confined. So we just had to make sure, how are we going to handle it? And of course we had a backup, close your eyes, put your hands over it, whatever. And then when the time came, almost everybody, in fact, it was their favorite thing. They were fighting over who gets to be blindfolded next. So don't presume that it's going to be a problem, but have a backup ready to go. And then feedback. I think feedback is really important. You're getting feedback during the program, hopefully, but solicit that feedback afterwards. Reach out to the school, reach out to the teacher. How did it go? Take constructive criticism. That's the way we've really learned is, well, this was great, but it would have been better if you did this. So, and especially those specifics, those nitty gritty details, those are the kind of things that maybe you're not picking up on, but maybe the chaperones are. And then share your feedback. What could the school do? Were the students prepared? Maybe they weren't dressed properly. Maybe the fact that, you know, we've had schools arrive an hour and a half late. That was a little bit of a problem from a staffing point of view. So, you know, be flexible, but share your feedback. And another kind of important thing that we've learned about field trips was, of course, you always want to keep everybody engaged. You want the students engaged every moment that they're there experiencing this wonderful, wonderful field trip. But there's going to be some downtime, and do your best to make sure it's structured downtime. So this is lunch, and this is what we're doing during lunch. Okay, now this is, you know, field gate times, but we're going to kick the ball around. Avoid standing around, milling around in between rotations. That kind of unfocused downtime, it's not a plus. It's not a plus in general, but maybe particularly for this community. And that can be tough. If you're especially in an outdoor setting, you might have one group that is in the field and maybe they're, or in the forest and they're a little late getting back. Well, then that's again why we have the walkie-talkies, so that we can communicate. Oh my gosh, we're moving slower. We're going to need an extra, 5 minutes. So, you know, plan that free time, but make sure that you're not having too much of it. And then, staff training. Some of these are just, standard, but make it fun. They'll take their cue from you. If you approach it as if it's scary, worrisome, then it will be for them. So make it fun, be patient, be reassuring, be sensitive. And then I just wanted to list a few of our biggest hits that really go over well, particularly when we have special needs students. The stream exploration and aquatic life, we're very fortunate to have the Blue Mine Brook running through our property. And sometimes the schools will let the students get wet whenever they can get dirty. We love that, and they love it too. So these are some of the things that really go well, and I might not have thought ahead of time that hiking would be great, but it is. So those are some of our tops, and I just listed a couple do's and don'ts down on the bottom. Our senior educator, Sarah, reminded me that she always tries to have something tangible for them. So if they're going on a walk or going on a hike, give them a printout so that they can be IDing the different trees or looking for these kind of leaves or birds or something. Give them something tangible. It helps them stay focused and engaged. And then, as I said, don't be hesitant about the sensory games. Lorna, Kathy, anything to add? I know I'm talking about the host site, but anything to add there?
I think you covered it all, and my
All
students enjoyed everything that you mentioned. It was just a wide array of activities that they absolutely loved.
I'm so glad. Okay. Well, moving on so we can stay on time, I'm going to move to our last section, which is talking about the transition teams. We touched on this earlier, the structured learning experiences what students that they are designed for, they bridge that gap so that they finish out their schooling, but before they are out in the adult world. This was something that was brand new to me when I was first approached of, could we host a transition team? I was said, what's a transition team? And it's really wonderful to work with them. And there's an on-site team. So you, again, do not have to be worried. Oh my gosh, how are we going to handle supervising this? I don't have enough staff. My staff isn't trained. You don't have to worry about that. You should assign a liaison on your site, whoever the main person is who's going to be the point of contact, but they will come, the students will come with a job coach. We've had different sizes of transition teams, but based on the kinds of work that we need done, we always like to have at least 2. It works better if they're in a pair. And we generally try not to go much over 4, although we have had 6 students on site. That's about as big as we've been able to accommodate. And they, as I said, they come with a job coach. It's wonderful. You kind of explain to the job coach ahead of time. And then that day when they come, they you go over the tasks with them. The job coach accompanies them, supports them, and then they step back to the extent that they are able to with how the students are doing. And Kathy touched on this earlier, but we think it's wonderful and very much needed for there to be more opportunities to have job host sites that are outdoors, agriculture, nature-based. Number one, it ties in with their career clusters and growing trends, and it gets them out of some of the more typical sites that they might traditionally have, gives them other options. So from the school's perspective, again, kind of talking the same things we talked about with field trips. Get that point of contact, exchange cell phone numbers, do that pre-site visit. And there's actually formal paperwork that needs to be done. And the link is on there. And that enables the school or the program to assess that work site. And they do a formal work site analysis. Also surveying the students. Which students is this going to work for? Which students would not be interested, don't want to be outside? And I should mention that we host primarily outside, but we have hosted teams that work indoors as well. The picture you see on there is, I think a couple of years ago, it's a transition team, and they helped us paint all of our rooms on the 2nd floor of our main building. So we also had a transition team that stripped and refinished cabinets, working with, on our end, one of our dedicated handyman volunteers. So he supervised in addition to the job coach, and they did a tremendous job for us. So we primarily do outside work for them, but we always have backups for a rainy day. And they have done some wonderful indoors projects too. They loved cleaning the woodwork, and we loved having them do it. And then again, the school will do evaluations after 5 visits, after 10 visits. And Lorna and Kathy, anything? And Bill and Matthew, anything you want to add here from the school perspective on transition teams?
Yeah, I want to just jump back to the slide before, when we talk about that it opens up a career path for in the cluster of agricultural, food, and nature. It's very important to remember that not too long ago, if you were diagnosed or I hate it, just, developmentally disabled, had special needs. You worked at ShopRite collecting carts. That's all anybody ever did. And with these transition programs, we're really branching out to make sure that people have everyone should have a fulfilling, successful life. And there are a lot of individuals who really enjoy working in the outdoors. And this just opens up that door to that career. I know someone put in the questions, what kind of things do they do at Windsor or at Weiss, the transition, and some of the things they do, we've cleared off paths, we've made gardens, we've done weeding, we've done resurfacing cabinets, we've done so many different things. So a lot of it is dependent upon what students want to do. But I know whenever we take the students up there, they're like, yeah, we want to work outside. Like give me the rake. They love raking the leaves and just being outside and watching the different birds. And I can't tell you how many times they're like, oh, look at that. What kind of bird is that? They've never maybe even seen a cardinal, and it's just so fulfilling to watch somebody being able to do that. So yeah, just wanted to kind of answer that one question and just add to that. Thank you, Anne.
Yeah. And I'll continue on with that. We're going to move on to talking about working with the transitions teams now from the host site perspective. And, I guess maybe it would help for me to mention a few more types of things that they do at Weiss. In addition to what Lorna mentioned, they have stained fences for us. They have done mulching. They pick up down branches and sticks to help us restock our woodshed, clearing and helping to make paths. Those are two students from the Chancellor Academy transition team that you see in that picture, who weeded and mulched that whole path, which was all overgrown with invasive stiltgrass. They have done quite a number of things. They clean out our fire circles. Really just, you name it outdoors, they do it. They worked in our rain garden, and they loved it. What we try to do is have a person. It used to be me, and now we have some other wonderful staff. So we have sort of a designated liaison, and that would be a staff person or maybe an intern, and they would kind of be their point of contact when the team arrives every day. Okay, what are we working on today? Remind them of everything that they might need. Go out and show them. Yes, they have a job coach, but it's wonderful to also have somebody from our side, because really they do marvelous work for us. And, we really reap the benefit as well as the students. So we do have a person to liaison with them and explain the tasks. Some of the indoor tasks they've done, as I said, painting. They clean our woodwork. We had a team this past fall who actually liked the cleaning, and they liked the kind of repetitive nature of it. And I mentioned that down in one of the lower bullets. Giving them something that they can master, that they can become proficient in, it was wonderful. Like they would clean the bathrooms, a wonderful, wonderful benefit for us. But it was great because they got to know, here's where the supplies are. First we go and we do this, then we empty the garbage, and then we do the recycling, and then we wipe off this. And so we refill the paper towels, and they always came in and did that each week when they came in. We usually have the teams come once a week. Sometimes in the past, they have come more than once a week. They usually also come for only a couple hours. So it's really important to make that time count. And that on the host site, maybe no different than having volunteers come. Prepare ahead of time so that you're not wasting that time figuring out, oh, what are we going to do today? Where are the supplies for that? Just get that stuff ready ahead of time. Have a whole list of tasks and jobs ready to go. Sometimes they were going to do one thing, but it's too hot out. So you got to find something else for them to do that's in the shade or indoors. So just the preparation, having backups again, And, you know, a variety, if you can have a variety of tasks. And sometimes, depending how long they're there, maybe they split the tasks. Maybe they do this task for part of the time, and then they move on to that, because different students will prefer different things. When they come the first time, it's important that you give them a orientation, so they feel like, hey, they're starting a job. Show them where everything is, where your supplies are kept, you know, so that they feel like they work there. And then again, feedback. So that is all I have to say for that. So we are almost on time. So now, if we want to open it up to questions, I know there was some questions in that chat room, and Anne, will you or somebody be monitoring that and throw those questions out to us?
I'll start the questions.
Yes.
Let's see. Go back up to the top and get these done. Okay, first one,
I
there's
got
a couple you've already answered, so I can skip them. But this is a good one. Do you specifically advertise specialized programs to special needs facilities or regular schools' special needs populations? So how do you get the word out to schools?
You know, we are and will be doing more of that. They've sort of found us. We do, you know, once you host one school or group, I don't know, word gets around. We do have information on our website about it. Obviously, I do social media posts. We're hosting this transition team. We had this school visit us. If we are allowed to take pictures of a field trip. So we certainly do, we do make it known that we do it. And we do have information on our website where we talk about field trips. We have not done extensive, and yet we've built up this kind of network of schools we work with. And that tells me that the need is out there, that there's probably an untapped potential for more and more of this. So we have to be realistic about how much we can do, let's say with transition teams. We had transition teams 4 days a week this past fall. So, you know, I don't think we'll ever run out of jobs, but, you know, be realistic about it. But, you know, we have not advertised extensively, and we will hopefully do more of it. But yeah, it's sort of came to us. And that, as I said, that tells me that people are looking for this, and there's opportunities there for other environmental and nature centers.
Right. And it's a synergistic program. So you do need you and the schools and the teachers and everybody working together. So it is a great program.
And sometimes, as I said, they come for the field trip, and then we talk to them about the transition. Hey, did you know that we do this too? Or vice versa. So
yeah. There's one question in here. It says, what are some transition programs or services that you would recommend? And Lorna, I tried to put up the link to the ACT flyer that you sent, and it didn't seem to be working. So do you want to address the ACT program here?
Sure. Actually, I don't want to take too much time away from Anne's questions, but what I did do is I put my email address up there, and I see a few people have taken that down. But overall, ACT is, you know, it's Avid's Career and Transition Services. So we can help you either develop your program, your existing program, or we can also add to it. But please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Okay, that was good. Yeah.
Friends, we're going to have to wrap this up because we have a next group of people are going to be using this room, and they need to prepare for their program. So why don't we take just 2 more quick questions, and then we're going to say goodbye.
Okay. Let's see what I got in here. How many weeks do the transition students normally work there?
Oh yeah, good question. It can vary. We haven't had, especially with COVID, enough work for them to sustain indoors over the winter. So for us, we've been doing fall, spring, and summer. Sometimes it's extended. So that's really up to you in the school. This fall, we kind of got underway with it in September, but and we had planned to stop in right around Thanksgiving, but it was going so well and we had enough work that we reached out to all the teams and said, do you want to stay a few weeks longer? And they said, sure. So for us, it's basically fall. We take off for a few months right now. We'll probably pick back up in March and maybe take a break, and then summer if they are interested. So I would say several months at a time.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Ann, you want to wrap it up?
Absolutely. I want to take the time right now to thank all of our presenters, Anne, Lorna, Kathy, Matt, Bill. We appreciate your time here today, and we're really grateful for all of the wonderful work you're doing. I'd just like to remind a few things. Please make sure you check that chat box to look for the program evaluation for all of the programs you've attended. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see any of the presentations you might not have been able to attend live. Thanks again to our conference sponsors, PSE&G, New Jersey Natural Gas, and our anonymous donor, and to BASF and Grounds for Sculpture for supporting our field experiences. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. I know I did, and it's breaking my heart to kick you all off, but the next team has to take over. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna kick you off.
All right, thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you so much,
So
Anne.
much.
All right,
Thank you.
Wonderful
thank you.
program and good
Thank
luck with
you.
everything.
Great
Wonderful
program.
program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.